So I stood up with a list of all the people who own their own homes, and I said, all of you who want to sit here acknowledging and saying that you live on stolen land, I hereby stand before you with offering to pay for a lawyer to come to the legislature this week who will do the deed of transfer for you, transfer the document into the hands of the tribe of your choice, and you can give it to them. This is precisely what we need to do, is put the hypocrisy in front of these people and say, look at what you're saying. You say these things, but if it was your own property, you'd fight like a cornered animal to keep your property. So you're all down for giving away other people's properties, but when it comes to you personally, you will behave very differently. Someone shouted back at me in the ledge, well, why don't you give away your house? I said, I'm not the one saying I like these acknowledgements. I'm not the one who's saying this is okay. I'm fighting against this, saying we are not on stolen land. Mm-hmm. Your fee simple title is indefeasible. It is yours. That means you have exclusive ownership forever until you sell it. And that's the way it is. It's you people who are trying to nibble around the edges of what we've always thought was sacrosanct in Western civilization, because our whole system of free enterprise, democracy, they're rooted in two fundamental principles. One is private property and the other is rule of law. If you don't own something, and if the rule of law isn't going to stand for what we all believed was there, then you can see immediately what starts to happen. People start to get nervous. Loans aren't being made now. People aren't able to renew mortgages. The whole system operates on a tradition of faith and confidence that what we believe in will exist tomorrow. If you're suddenly going, does this exist tomorrow? What are we doing here?
Hello and welcome to tonight's show, where we provide information and resources for everyday Canadians. We're so thankful you can join us. Our guest speaker this evening is Dallas Brodie, and the title of tonight's show is Marxism, Universities, and Suppression of Truth. It's February 4th, 2026, and this is the Empower Hour. Please let me introduce you to Tanya Gaw, the founder and leader of Action for Canada. For over 10 years, Tanya has been raising awareness about critical issues facing our nation, and she's been pushing back against government corruption and malfeasance, as well as educating Canadian citizens about our rights and freedoms. But first, before we head over to Tanya, we want to take a moment to honor our dear friend, Laurie Baird, one of Action for Canada's beloved chapter leaders and our BC provincial lead, who went to be with our Lord on Sunday.
I've been walking this lonesome road, carrying burdens heavy and cold, but a voice keeps calling me, come my child and you'll be free. Oh my heart, don't be afraid, grace will lead the way. I'm homeward bound, no turning back, through every storm, through every track. Jesus waits with open arms, guiding me where mercy starts. I've seen valleys, I felt the rain, wandered lost in fear and pain, but His light breaks through the night. Now I see with heaven's sight. Oh my heart, don't be afraid, grace will lead the way. I'm homeward bound, no turning back, through every storm, through every track. Jesus waits no turning back. Through every storm, through every track, oh, Jesus waits with open arms, guiding me where mercy starts. Yes, I'm home at last.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. We had some sad news this week. Our precious sister Lowry had a very short battle with cancer. Several months ago, we found out. She was so amazing. I've been on the front line battling with Lowry for years. She was our Kelowna chapter leader and moved up to our provincial lead as well. And I just wanted to add a few words to this video. It was a small tribute, but if you go to her photos on her Facebook page, I mean, her life was so full. You could see that she touched the lives of so many people. She had so many friends. She was actively involved with David Lindsay and Clear and Kelowna and all of the rallies. And she was my comrade in arms in Kelowna. I mean, the superintendent there, Kevin Cardell, this school board was, I think, one of the worst ones in all of Canada as far as indoctrinating our children and knowing of the harms. And we came up against them. She did the prayer walks for revival. Remember the story when some bricks fell out of the building after they went 7 times around the school board, and it ends up being outside, 2 stories up outside of Kevin Cardell's office. And we just thank the Lord for his movement in Kelowna. She was also on the front line in exposing the drag queens in Kelowna and the concerns. She battled for our children fiercely, and she loved this country. She went to the private RCMP meetings with me in Kelowna as well, in trying to call out those who were behind harming our children. And she was always just ready to go. If there was any papers that needed to be served or anything that needed to be done, she was there. And you saw all of the pictures of her with her dog. I remember traveling in her vehicle, and the pup would be in the back with the the head out the window. And she adored her son. He absolutely, Dalton, meant everything to her. So pray for her family as they go through the process, and her Action for Canada family. She was just a core member of our team, and she is dearly missed, and she will be dearly missed. So with that, I think, Heather, I'd like to first introduce Dallas, and then I want to show a video of what recently, just a short clip of what happened to her at UBC, which has been a pretty steady observance at the universities that she and Frances Widdowson and Jim McMurdy have been attending. And so let's just bring Dallas on. I can't wait to do this show tonight with her.
It's my pleasure to introduce you to Dallas Brodie this evening. Dallas received her BA from Princeton University in 1984 and her LLB from the University of Toronto Faculty of Law in 1987. Before entering public office, she worked as a corporate and securities lawyer, a criminal defense lawyer for young offenders, a radio and television producer and broadcaster, and an arbitrator at the residential tenancy branch of BC. She is currently the MLA for Vancouver-Coachella and the leader of the OneBC party. If you've been following Dallas, you'll know she's been courageously and uncompromisingly addressing tough issues head-on, even though speaking the truth is unpopular. Will you all please help me welcome Dallas Brodie. Dallas, it's so good to have you back. Welcome to the Empower Hour.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Tanya. It's always an honor to be here. Your show has given me much courage through the years, and thanks to you, I probably got into action when I did. So kudos to you.
Super. Well, thank you, Dallas. And, as Heather is introducing you there and going over your history and your education, I mean, you're no dummy. You're not somebody that's showing up to the fight without some incredible tools in your tool belt. And when I watch you in the legislature calling out the corruption. I just thank God for all of the gifts that you have. I've always said to people, that we all have these special gifts that God has given us. It may be doing graphics in the background, but you're on the front line with your legal expertise, and you understand exactly what it is that they're doing from a legal perspective, also from a moral perspective as well. And that's what I love about you. When I see you on the front line at the universities, you are there because you ferociously as well love our kids. And you're not doing this for any other reason that you see the tragedy that's unfolding behind us as our kids are being indoctrinated intentionally into this Marxist agenda. And you can see, once I show the video clip, how incredibly effective it has been. But I truly believe that we will be able to turn this around, and it will be by proclaiming the truth over and over and over again until they're willing to listen.
Yes, and thank you, Tanya. You're correct. This is a massive exercise in indoctrination that's going on. And it's not just here in BC, it's across Canada. And the 3 universities we visited, the protests have mounted and gotten bigger at each place we've gone. Frances Widdowson, I have to give her incredible shout out of bravery of a woman who was one of the taking the early hits on this file, just like Jim McMurtry. These are 2 people who have suffered in all by themselves, dealing with losing their jobs, being told they're causing harm to children when they both adore children and young people. This has been a ghastly defamation, slander, everything of these people. And I'm here and I want to support them and be one of those people on the front line with these incredible warriors, which is what they are. And God bless them. And I do see what's going on. It's terrible. And after we've seen the clip, I might be able to go on a little bit further about what we saw at UBC, Tanya.
Right. I find it's very similar to what they did to Barry Neufeld in trying to shut him down when he was speaking out back in 2017 against the SOGI 123, the sexual orientation and gender identity resource that went into the schools. I mean, they've smeared his name. It's defamatory. And yet when it goes before the BC courts, these judges are ruling in favor of the mutilation and sexualization of our children. And I was praying with one of my team members earlier today that God would just break this, that he would convict the hearts and minds of the judges. I was thinking also regarding the judges of how many of them own property in British Columbia, because I was reviewing your challenge before the legislature to every single MLA, asking how many of them are willing to give up their home and their property and hand it over to the Indians. And I don't think you had a positive response. Not one.
No, we didn't. And I did do that. Apparently, there are 93 elected politicians in British Columbia. So 93 seats, 85 of the 93 own their own homes. So I stood up with a list of all the people who own their own homes. And I said, all of you who want to sit here acknowledging and saying that you live on stolen land, I hereby stand before you with offering to pay for a lawyer to come to the legislature this week who will do the deed of transfer for you, transfer the document into the hands of the tribe of your choice, and you can give it to them. And even the speaker started laughing, because this is precisely what we need to do, is put the hypocrisy in front of these people and say, look at what you're saying. You say these things, but if it was your own property, you'd fight like a cornered animal to keep your property. So you're all down for giving away other people's properties, but when it comes to you personally, you will behave very differently. Someone shouted back at me in the ledge, well, why don't you give away your house? I said, I'm not the one saying I like these acknowledgements. I'm not the one who's saying this is okay. I'm fighting against this, saying we are not on stolen land. Your fee simple title is indefeasible. It is yours. That means you have exclusive ownership forever until you sell it. And that's the way it is. It's you people who are trying to nibble around the edges of what we've always thought was sacrosanct in Western civilization, because our whole system of free enterprise, democracy, they're rooted in 2 fundamental principles. One is private property and the other is rule of law. And because of those 2 things, you know that you own your property and the rule of law will uphold your right to that property. And then everything can function. You can get loans, you can run a business, you can do these things. But if you don't own something, and if the rule of law isn't going to stand for what we all believed was there, then you can see immediately what starts to happen. People start to get nervous. Loans aren't being made now. People aren't able to renew mortgages. The whole system operates on a tradition of faith and confidence that what we believe in will exist tomorrow. If you're suddenly going, does this exist tomorrow? What are we doing here? And you can see how that affects everything. You've got to believe the system is there. It's run by rule of law, and your rights will be upheld. And it's very dangerous when we start chewing away at that foundation.
Right. And this is why I say you're doing an excellent job in how you're using your gifted talents, your education as a lawyer, because how I see this is that it's almost like when you go before the legislature, you're preparing to go before the court of law every day and defend your position and the Constitution and the Charter. And I've got to add in there, because I keep promoting this, the coronation oath. And the coronation oath is, David Lindsay is an expert in this, but the coronation oath, Canada must be governed by Christian biblical principles. And the Bible is very clear on land ownership, on our property rights, and as well on upholding the rule of law. And David Eby was in an interview or a video lately where he arrogantly just said, was so proud of the decisions that has been made recently in Richmond, and that this is just the beginning. And where was he the day that you said, hey, David, are you willing to give up? Does he own property? Is he one of the ones on the list? Like, where does he think this is going to go for him?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, it's legislators act like, I'm going to make these rules, but it's never going to affect me. And in Victoria, everybody wants to just be accepted and make friends and be friendly and get along. And it's not fun for me to always be what I refer to as the skunk in the room over there. People come in, I get dirty looks. As soon as I walk in, I get this energetic of absolute horrible negativity. But I also, your comment about my courtroom experience has served me well, because yes, my heart is pounding when I go in there because it's awful. And sometimes my heart is pounding so loudly, I wonder if people around me can hear it. It's worse than ever even going to court. But then when I stand up and I'm ready to go, I go into kill mode and I'm going, okay, I am here to do work. I am now a lawyer and my client is the province of British Columbia. Mm-hmm. And I am going to make my argument with every ounce of my energy. And I don't care what the other opposing counsel says. I am going to fight for my client the way I see it should be fought for, and let the other people fight for theirs. But often I've not met with cogent arguments coming from the other side. They simply engage in calling me names. And this happens over and over again. And that day when I actually did that question, how many of you will transfer your properties? Oh, they were all chuckling and laughing, thinking this is funny. I said, I don't think this is very funny. I'm actually saying this seriously. You're all down for this. So why don't you just do it now? What are you waiting for? And then Spencer Chandra Herbert, who's the Indigenous Affairs Minister for David Eby, just started calling me names. He said, you're a racist, you're a denialist, and this is what we've come to expect from you, and then made some thing that, oh, you live on the Tony West side. I thought, this is unbelievable. Yeah. You can't answer it with a proper legal argument. Why don't you at least stand behind it with proper legal argument about why you support this instead of just name calling? But then I know that I'm winning the political argument because they can't meet it issue for issue.
That's because they don't have an answer for this. They don't have a legal standing in, the theft that is going on. Yeah. And I'm loving this because I believe that God is doing a reset in Canada. We've got to get abortion legislation in place. We've got to stop killing the unborn. We've got to stop the sexual deviancy because it's crossed the line, and it has no extent to which the evil will go, and they're coming after our children because we opened the door to the sexual deviancy. And so we need balance here. And then as well, as far as the Indians and the Aboriginals are concerned, and I'm talking about opening the door as well to all of these other false gods, and who are now setting themselves up. Something very dark has entered Canada, but it was already here based on the belief systems of the Aboriginals. And so signing the treaties with them, the Bible is very clear. It says, when you go into a country, do not sign treaties with them, because then you will open up the door to being involved with their symbolisms and their belief systems. And wouldn't you know, it's coming into our schools, Multiculturalism Day, and then all of this Indian rhetoric is coming in, and it's really causing deep psychological and emotional harm to our children. They are more stressed than they've ever been. And our nation was thriving when our education was built on reading, writing, and arithmetic, and raising good and moral, healthy children. And again, it was based on basic biblical principles about not lying and not cheating and not stealing. And this is what this whole cabal is doing. And I was listening to a testimony today of one of the gals in one of the bands, and more Indians themselves in the bands are speaking up and saying, you know, we agree with Dallas Brodie, and they've agreed with Action for Canada that the chiefs are getting a whole lot of money. This is a money-making industry, whether in land and development, with this money passing hands, whether the $12 million that have gone to the fake graves in Kamloops, you know, all of this money, billions and hundreds of billions of dollars, is moving and shifting through these hands. And the more that we dig into FOIs, and the more that we dig into requesting these documents on what is behind this land theft, the more we're seeing the criminal aspect of it and the corruption. So again, I really give you a huge shout out for that. As you know, years ago, Action for Canada was on the front line of the attacks as well. I was traveling, I was so green when it came to this and these kind of threats, but it was, I had posted about how the graves were empty, and the report had just come out from the federal government stating that 86% of the missing and murdered so-called Indigenous women and girls was done at the hands of the Indians themselves on the reserves. 86 or 87% of it. And so I was relieved. I thought, okay, they're going to be happy knowing it wasn't the white colonizers that were murdering them and killing them, but it was all with the objective of the World Economic Forum and the United Nations trying to collapse our democracy, make us out as a genocidal, murderous nation. The attack against white people who really have the most thriving, the white Europeans who had the most thriving, financially thriving nations in the world. And the Indians have been paid out very, very well from our community. And now we're getting kicked in the teeth because of the global agenda. Mm-hmm. And some of them are making a lot of money and riding that wave, while the ones on the reserves who are literally living in poverty and have no clean water they have their eyes open to this. They're beginning to see we're not benefiting from this, and there's something very nefarious going on behind the scenes.
Well, it's I do get phone calls from Indigenous people, and even the documentary we made, Making a Killing, has had many comments from people say, I'm full Native, I live on, and they're saying thank you. And so, and I hear the stories from people who are living on reserve. There are two Aboriginal men in our video who are very brave in the documentary, who talk about what's really going on. And so Canadians are generous. We have generous hearts. We want people to have a hand up and to get better and have a good life. We want everybody to participate in the benefits of being part of a country like this. But Canadians need to understand that the money isn't going where they think it's going. Mm-hmm. And this is a really important thing. And of course, I'm getting hit on from all sides because the money flowing like a river, a huge river, is billions, as you said, and it is going to what we call the reconciliation industry. Mm-hmm. Chiefs and council, lawyers, big law firms, consultants and developers, and the accounting firms. Okay, mm-hmm. There's law firms that when I was starting practicing in the mid 80s never had Aboriginal law groups. They had the securities group. There might be one or two people practicing Aboriginal law to learn, about claims with railroads and things like that. Now they've got entire departments and, 20, 25 lawyers all working in the Aboriginal law department. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to the average person living on reserve. And I know that they're suffering and they're angry at their chiefs, and they've been watching this go on for 40 years. So many of the ones coming to speak to me are in their late 50s, early 60s, as am I. And they tell me we've been terrified, but we're now older and it's time we spoke up. And there are some of them say they're embarrassed about the mismanagement and the garbage that they've been tolerating, because it's embarrassing that they've allowed it to go on. But they get no support from the federal government for, there used to be the Transparency and Accountability Act federally that Stephen Harper brought in. And then as soon as Justin Trudeau got elected, he told all the chiefs, we won't enforce it anymore. It's still there on the books, but they're not enforcing those accountabilities. There's one chief, it's Grand Chief Stuart Phillip, as he calls himself.
Yes.
Grand, in the last time he reported his income as over $900,000 a year, being the Grand Chief of BC. Okay, you tell me, and that's probably tax-free to him because there's no, so that's like the equivalent of making $2 million a year, because he'd be taxed at 53% in that tax bracket. And then his wife, Joan Phillip, sits as an MLA in the colonial legislature. Like, you know, if it's colonial, why are you even wanting to participate? So between them, she's probably making 130,000. He's making, well, that was in 2014 when he was making that. So maybe he's making over $1 million a year. That's a big paycheck. And that is not helping the people on reserve who are, have the highest percentage of children in foster care, the highest percentage of teenagers dying from fentanyl, the highest number of fetal alcohol syndrome, the highest number of assaults. Like, it just goes on, and it's not fair. And people think that it's helping them. And this is the part that's wrong.
Yeah.
And they're speaking up, and they call me and they're telling me. And I think we all need to go back to being Canadians. Everybody's Canadian, and we need to dismantle this system. It's gone on for too long.
In times of financial uncertainty, safeguarding your assets is increasingly important. In response to ongoing inflation, economic challenges, and market instability, many Canadians are adopting the timeless strategy of investing in precious metals. Historically, gold and silver have held their value, safeguarding your assets against economic turmoil. Action for Canada is pleased to announce our partnership with Steve of Sun City Silver, providing valued members of A4C with expanded investment opportunities designed to help you achieve your financial goals. Steve is an ally of the Freedom Movement, and he's offering members of Action for Canada exclusive access to some of Canada's premier prices. By leveraging his connections with Silver Gold Bull, you can access competitive rates for securing your precious metals. Silver Gold Bull is a trusted Canadian leader, offering live pricing 24/7 and boasting nearly 400,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot. For an order of $5,000, be sure to indicate you're an Action for Canada member and receive a complimentary 1967 silver dollar, courtesy of Sun City Silver. Expand your collection further by referring a new customer who places a similar order, and Steve will reward you with a special bonus thank you gift. Your purchase with Steve is a dual investment. You invest in your future while simultaneously supporting the Freedom Movement with a percentage of each sale benefiting Action for Canada. For more information, be sure to visit actionforcanada.com/purchasing-precious-metals/. Secure your assets, protect your future, support Action for Canada and the Freedom Movement. The information presented is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended to provide financial, legal, or tax advice, as we are not licensed financial advisors, accountants, or attorneys and cannot provide professional counsel. Be advised that the content and information provided does not create a client relationship. We recommend you consult with a qualified professional advisor before making any financial, legal, or tax decisions. Please note that Action for Canada is not responsible for an individual's financial outcome. Remember, your decisions are your own, and we recommend doing your own research before making any investment.
Even Pierre Elliott Trudeau said that in 1969 with his white paper. We can't go forward with two classes of citizen. That white paper was supposed to get rid of the Indian Act and everything like this. And who protested it? The Assembly of First Nations. which is the umbrella group for all of the bands in Canada. There are over 600 bands in Canada. Their group is the 635 chiefs, and they said, no way. They want it. So Trudeau said it's going to be trouble, and he was right. I don't really like Trudeau, what he did in the country, but in that, he was right.
Well, he was pushing for the charter, but what people really don't understand is that the preamble, that Canada is founded on the supremacy of God and the rule of law, it ends in a colon, which means everything underneath that must apply to and follow the supremacy of God and the rule of law. That means even Section 35, the multiculturalism section, every single section must, and the coronation oath, as I said, when the Queen signed the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, she had taken the coronation oath that the monarch must be governed by Protestant Christian faith and biblical standards. So she couldn't sign the charter unless that colon actually meant something. And that, yes, we recognize that there's many cultures living in Canada, but that doesn't give them the right to set up their laws and their foreign values here. But because we've had elected officials in place that have had an agenda to turn us into a Marxist communist nation, this is what we're suffering. And then you've got the Indians who they've emboldened, and because they can use them for the global agenda. And people just aren't putting, the ties and direction together. And I think that it is all coming to a head. And that's why I was saying earlier, I really think that God wants to set things straight in Canada for the goal that you have, that we will all be equal under the law, that we all will be treated the same. And that is my goal as well, because I love the Indian Aboriginal community enough to speak the truth and say, you are being harmed within your own community because they want to keep you under their thumb as victims. And the same with the children being indoctrinated into Soji. They want to victimize them in order to advance the sexual deviant agenda. They want to keep the Indians victimized so that they can advance this global agenda to take all of our land, our resources. That's the end goal, and to do this wealth transfer. Well, I love them enough to say, you're being exploited, you're being used. It's time that we collaborate and that we bring this to an end, and that you agree the treaties need to be ripped up, and that they need to, like Aaron is doing from your the Making a Killing, that video. Aaron was one of the Indians that you were referring to that is boldly speaking out. He's doing FOIs, and we all need to be exposing the corruption, going to every single city council meeting, listening and finding out what deals are being made. We're the taxpayer. They work for us. We're not here to fund, as you say, this reparations industry. We are here for Canadians, and we need a break and a relief. There's more of us than them, and when this turns around, it's not going to bode well for them. So we're going to continue to fight until it does. And I know that you're in this battle equally with me in order to see until we see that happen.
Yeah, and like I said, this is about it. The chiefs would be like, "Oh, we don't want to." See, basically, we've consigned these people on reserve to live in these communist ethno states, so they can't even own their own property. And I have to say something. I think I'm going to run out of juice on my computer. Can you just talk?
You
for
go
a second?
ahead.
While I grab my. I'm sorry about this.
No, that's okay. As what Dallas was saying about the conditions in which the Indians are living on in these reserves, they're not thriving. And I know that a lot of them, even through the decisions that have been made through the reparations and the reason to pay out millions of dollars, Michelle Sterling is an expert researcher in exposing this as well. She's also in the Making a Killing video, and she speaks very well on this, that the monies that are changing hands, and that the Liberal government came out and said that if they had experienced harm, I forget the fella's name, that had said that he'd been sexually abused with no evidence. And that turned into, again, a huge industry of paying out money to them. And all they had to fill out was a form.
That's true.
And if they, depending on what harms that they were reporting, they get $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. It was like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. You didn't have to provide any evidence. And it was millions and millions of dollars have been paid out by taxpayers. And within this as well, we've got to remember that part of where they're trying to victimize them is saying that it was the Europeans who are responsible for their alcoholism and the drug abuse, but that was even before the schools had even come into play or into place. And so at some point, we haven't had schools for decades. At some point, you got to take responsibility for yourself.
Well,
You know,
this is the thing. We have to get back to this. Who's the bigger victim now is sort of be the star power. Like, being a victim is not a healthy way to go through your life. We've all been through things, and we've all been around people. Maybe you've been through a horrible divorce. Maybe you've been through a terrible firing at work, and people will listen to you for a while, but then they get tired of listening to your, you have to get on with things after a while, no matter what happened to you. And this applies to all of us who live on earth, because everyone has had very difficult stories in their lifetime. My family had difficult things. There's intergenerational stuff, if you want to call it that. There's things that have happened, but we have to get into a mindset of Canada that we are strong. We are not victims. I don't need a safe space. I don't need, I want to be strong. I don't want to be seen as a victim. Imagine if I was just weeping and crying now because I've been called names in the media, which I have been. I've been attacked brutally. Like, it's been, talk about being victimized. But do I see it the way? I'm like, no, you're not going to get me down. Does it hurt sometimes? Yes, but I'm not going to be a victim. I am going to define myself, and I am going to take responsibility for myself, the words I use, the talents I have, and I'm going to move forward no matter how much I get knocked down. And that is how we become a stronger nation. But to be competing to say who's the biggest victim, this has got to stop. And it is not helping anyone. I have daughters, and I tell them, look, no matter how many pink shirt days you have, you will encounter bullies. They will be everywhere. They're in workplaces. I was terribly workplace bullied in a very famous case in the early 2000s. I was in my early 40s, and I left there with a neck I could hardly turn after so much abuse in the workplace. And so it's going to happen no matter where you go. So what you have to learn is, how are you going to deal with these people when you encounter them? How do you get around them? How do you find a new job? How do you deal with it? How do you keep yourself together? Often no one is there to really help you. And so you have to look inward. I have a very strong faith. And when I'm taking in particular difficult attacks, I turn to God and I say, okay, this is not fun. Why me? Why now? And I just know that He'll give me, His grace is sufficient. And I will know that I can get through this, because with God's strength, I can do everything. And that applies to everyone in this world. Look deeper, look into your heart, look above, ask God for help to get you through the difficult times, and do better. Do better, but don't wallow in your misery. It's such a negative thing. Honestly, I had been a lawyer for so many years and done all these really thinking jobs for so long. And when I was going through a very difficult time, I just went and got a job at a grocery store for a year and a half during COVID. I just wanted a job where I could just chop vegetables, which is what I did. I chopped fruit and vegetables, and I wore a hairnet and put on my my apron, and I just loved it. And it was better than any therapist I could have gone for. It really helped me, and I'm around other people every day and helping people find their things in the store, and it cheered me up, and it got me on a schedule, being there first thing and then leaving. And then I just realized, and everybody shares their problems. Everybody has problems. Everybody. From the top of the socioeconomic ladder right down to the bottom, everybody has problems. And we have to understand that we need to work through them, and we're not going to escape them.
I agree so much with you, Dallas. I've shared a short testimony before of my mom and dad coming to Canada after World War II. Their homes had been blown up. My mom had also experienced horrendous abuse. And then but they never received a dime from the government. My dad had a grade 6 or 7 education when he came here. He put himself through school with 3 small children. And while him and my uncles were building homes and my family coming together and supporting supporting each other. I remember as a young kid working the land with my dad. We worked hard every single Saturday. We were out there scraping the house and staining it or doing whatever was needed. And we were so blessed. When I was 9, they became Christians and our lives really changed. So one, people get involved in a church, have a community. It doesn't mean that Christians don't have problems. We do, but we have a faith and we have a support system unlike anything that I can possibly say you'll experience. And then I went through 20 years of, like, I'm talking intense hardship and really big trials. And when I was 39, I found out about, some memories of childhood abuse and things that had transpired, and I had to go through them. But it was a point where I all of a sudden said to myself, I'll be a victim as long as I choose to be a victim. And I don't know if you can understand the depth of what that is. That gave me the power to say, oh, you know what? I can step out of this and away from it. And I just want to encourage everybody who's viewing this to understand you have that strength and that power to do that as well. And that's where being part of a community can help you. But this dysfunction, you will attract dysfunction. And that will be harder for you to get out from under this umbrella of whether it's shame or hurt or harm. And you need to get on healthy ground. And I think that's a major problem within this particular community of people and within our children. I think what I'll do now is I am going to go and I'll show the video of what happened. And now we'll turn the conversation towards what's happening with our kids. And this is abuse. This is mass abuse of our children. Teaching them, as Jim said, in elementary school, in junior high and high school, that we're white colonialists and that we somehow murdered or harmed people. I mean, what a disgusting, horrible thing to do to our children, and that they have no patriotism to our country. You can see how this is Mao, as you have mentioned as well, in Order and in Work, Lenin using our children as agents of change, as the United Nations has said. So with that, I'll show a couple of clips and go over a few links to give people some resources as we're moving through this conversation. All right. Oh, that's just an Action for Canada map of our chapters nationwide. Upcoming event on the 20th. I hope you're all going to join us. I wanted to make sure that we showed you undercurrent issues. If you drop down, you would just click on UNDRIP and you'll have this incredible report that after I was attacked by Chief Kenny Watts at Lake Dallas, oh, you're a racist, you're a homophobic, you're this, you're that, it was just, I'm looking at where is this coming from? But I just said, you can't, I wasn't permitted to come into the island and come into, this district. And I says, I'm coming anyways. You may shut down our venue, but we'll find another way. And so we did. We met in our home, and I'm not going to cave into the bullying. I never have, I never will. They think they're pretty powerful, but they're not. I always say, like, God is greater in us than he that is in this world. But anyways, aside from that, come on to this page, look at the work that Action for Canada has been doing in calling all of this out over the years and providing you, you can come onto this page and it's like, where did I hear, that report that it was the Indians that were harming themselves right here? There's the federal report. You said hundreds of billions of dollars, Tanya? Yes, I sure did. I have to update this page to add more money that's being paid out. Now I can start talking about the land as well. And it talks just different stats. And then if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, Michelle Sterling has been on multiple times. I've had Dallas on previously as well. This is the chief that tried calling me out and calling me all those names. And I just kind of laughed at him. It goes into the truth about Sir John A. Macdonald. And then, like I say, it's a very, very big, extensive report. But here's all of our guests that we've had on to talk specifically about this issue. So it's a really informative page. I would say use it. Start sending this information to your elected officials, because knowledge is power. And when you have it, you've got to share it. And we are lobbying government, because a lot of these elected officials, they think they're doing this do-goodery. They're captured by this victimhood and they think they're doing something noble, but they're not. They are tightening the noose around Canadians, and they're participating in the treason and the destruction of our own nation. So it's up to you to get busy within your communities. Reach out to us to be a chapter leader. We're really doing a great job here. All right, so I'm just going to play this for about 2.5 minutes or so you can get a gist of what it is that Dallas, Francis, and Jim are experiencing on the university grounds, what our tax dollars are funding in this and how they've twisted our kids' minds. I want you to also pay attention to how many of the imports are participating, and you'll see people wearing the kafia, the Islamic scarf. And Dallas, maybe afterwards you can tell me a little more about the Salomon Dune. They're a known terrorist organization, I believe could be represented here as well. So just take a look at all of what's going on in the background. Look at some of these kids' faces and how invested that they are in this. And just a huge shout out to the team that went. I wish I could have been there that day.
This isn't about free speech, it's about hate.
I think it's about truth. It's about truth. Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah.
Truth is fucking objective to you. You don't believe in that shit.
Do you believe in subjective truth?
I don't believe in anything that you say.
No, but look, do you believe? Let me ask you a question. Do you believe in subjective truth or objective truth?
Kirk with you.
Why not?
I'm not playing Charlie Kirk.
But why not? You asked to talk to me. I'm
I
talking to
didn't
you.
ask to talk to you. I was.
You're yelling at me.
And you've got fucking bodyguards surrounding you too. Is that not threatening?
Well, your friend just hit me on the arm. So yeah, I do need bodyguards. Where's the guy? Let's have a forum out here about what's going on up at Kamloops and with the whole reconciliation industry. But do you think they'd ever let that happen? No way. And you know what they'd say? They'd say, oh, we can't guarantee your safety. That's ridiculous. They bring a lot of really, controversial speakers here, and they don't have any problem doing that, but only if they're on the left-wing side of the spectrum and supportive of certain causes. We're on a university campus.
Yeah.
Over $1 billion floods into this school every year from the provincial government. $1 billion. Okay? This is publicly funded place. When I was growing up, universities were a place you went to expand your mind, learn new viewpoints, learn new things. What this is an effort to shut down, close down, and disallow these kids from hearing what's going on out here. And you got to ask yourself, what are they also afraid of? Why are they afraid to hear another perspective? Why?
I know you were saying it a little bit earlier, but it's a little loud.
It's okay.
What brings you here today? Why do you want to be here?
Well, I'm here because we need to have an open dialogue about what's really going on this file and what's happening. The Kamloops Indian Residential School and the claim of 215 bodies that have been found is simply not true. At this point, there have been no bodies found. And people need to and they're teaching this now in schools, that this is what happened, even in elementary schools, high schools. And so really we need to have truth about this, and that's why we're here. And all of this commotion is really incredible, really, because they don't want to have other points of view heard, and you have to ask yourself, why not? Young people like you come to university, and you should be allowed to hear different points of view, listen to a reasoned discussion, and then think about it. What I'm pushing for, I hope there to be eventually a forum here at UBC in a contained environment that's calm and allow people to. There needs to be, these kids are being indoctrinated. This really, to me, this is Mao's cultural revolution. And older.
All right, so just I'm in 100% agreement, but I wanted to show you back in 2019, I attended an event with Professor Duchesne, and the same thing was going on at that time, and Tifa came out. I happened to get caught up in that crowd. I won't play the video clip right now. It is on our webpage. That resulted, I mean, they were almost smashing the glass down. At that time, the Vancouver police did nothing. We met with the UBC police. We ended up doing a call to action against the university. We wrote a letter to the then president. We brought a lot of attention to this matter and what was going on in universities across Canada. So this isn't new, but it is new in the last, say, 2 decades, decade and a half, that this has been ramping up. So I just wanted to also encourage you, we're going to have it in the description, to sign the petition to defund the radical leftist University of British Columbia. Again, we'll see how far petitions go, but it's also a matter of helping to educate people on the matter and bring attention to what our tax dollars are doing across Canada. We saw all of the Palestinian marches all out of hand going on. I mean, we gotta bring this back under control. Again, the great news, the reason the pushback is happening, and that's why we need all Canadians on board, is that the Canadian government was ordered to release the files on the residential school masquerade charade. And so this is a very, very promising breakthrough as well. And then Dallas had also, I encourage you to follow Dallas on her social media platform X and to sign up for OneBC. They send updates and letters once in a while. I don't care where you live in the country. Follow this lady so you're well informed and that you can even begin to implement what she's doing here in other provinces, because Ontario is a hotbed for this as well, trying to give land over to the Indians. And once they're opening this door, it will come to every province because the momentum is building. And so the band council removed the page on the website claiming the unmarked graves of 215 children who were found outside the Kamloops Indian residential school. And I understand that you can tell me the Kamloops Museum or something had also quietly removed this. So the pushback is really happening. And then just finally, I'm sure Dallas will talk about, I'm going to give her the floor to just cover all of this. OneBC has submitted a request to UBC to host a debate on the unconfirmed claim that 215 children were buried in Kamloops Indian Residential School. UBC has acknowledged receiving a request. And so anyways, I'm going to look forward to an update on that, Dallas, as well. So I'll stop sharing my screen. And let's get into this then. I just kind of want to hand the floor over to you for you to cover whatever you need to over the video, your experience. Are you having further interaction with UBC? Where are these things at?
We posted today that it's been 6 business days now since we submitted our letters, and all we've had is an acknowledgement of receipt. So we are now counting. And we're posting, and I know for a fact that they have been inundated with letters. People at a high level were shocked to see their alma mater behaving like this. So they're getting letters. The governors of the UBC, the president, the RCMP detachment, we have sent letters out there, and we are not going to let go of this. And we're going to keep the heat on because this is completely unacceptable. We've also received some letters from other students at UBC who have said, thank you for coming, and we're so embarrassed. And we can't say anything, and because we'll get in trouble out here. They are terrified to speak up. And this is one thing I say to people who are our age. We're older now, and it's hard to cancel old people because we're not, maybe we're retired, or we're fortunate enough not to have to worry about our bosses firing us. But this is our fight to fight for the kids. They can't do this because they're living in the battle now, and we've all had a good run, and we need to fight now. This is our war, and we need to stand up as grown-ups to say we took our eye off the road for a while, and we let this develop and fester for the last 30 or 40 years. And we now need to step in as grown-ups and help these kids. They are really scared. Their papers that they write, they have to say what the teacher says to them, or they get in trouble and they're embarrassed and humiliated in class. So we're going to stay on this file with strength and determination and class, always class. I say, stay within the lines, but color boldly. And that's really important because our behavior has to be above reproach, even though they can behave like baboons. I got hit on the arm. I got shoved sideways and these are young men shoving an older lady. Imagine that. That would never have happened when I was growing up. I don't care how much you didn't like the grumpy old lady down the beach. You don't go up and hit her, right?
Yeah,
so
unheard of.
We are in a very strange times, and we now refer to this group at UBC as the Orange Guard, because we know in Mao's Cultural Revolution it was the Red Guard, and these were young students beating up old people, sometimes beating them to death. And if you look at videos or pictures of the struggle sessions, which is what they were called, they put these older people through these struggle sessions to make them repent for just being part of the 4 olds, which is what Mao said we have to get rid of: old names, old traditions, old values. There were 4 olds that he wanted to get rid of. They would beat up old people and beat them with sticks and scream at them. And this is what I was observing at UBC on the 22nd of January. They looked like the Orange Guard coming after people, surrounding them, screaming. And some of the ones who got up close, honestly, I don't know what they were on, but they had sweat on their foreheads. Their faces were twitching. Their eyeballs were sort of shaking. They were wearing masks. They were screaming. their bodies were vibrating. It was crazy.
I saw the one girl, her eyes were like black, like full
Yeah.
pupil, and I thought, man, something's very wrong there. And then in the video, I was just showing there's an older gentleman that was part of, I would say, our group, and he was just peacefully walking along. He should have just said how he was getting bumped and knocked around. And he said that I've been consistently abused while I'm here. And Doug had just, or Dan had just posted drug-induced psychosis,
Yes.
whatever they're doing. So can you tell me as well, well, if Action for Canada can help you out as well in a letter writing campaign to the university, I'd be happy to pump something out on your behalf and apply greater pressure if you even just already have something written up that I can send out to the masses. I mean, we'd send this out countrywide, but you and I are in contact with Aaron, and I know that there's been information. It says inside the World Cup deal for Musqueam, Squamish, and I can't repeat the other name. That okay, so it says some of my papers cut off here. The same day that Premier David Eby began the NDP re-election, he secretly signed an agreement to give the Musqueam Indian Band nation at least $600,000, an unidentified quantity of FIFA World Passes, and a pavilion at the Peonies FIFA Fan Festival. What is that about? This to me is very revealing.
Actually, it was $18 million was committed to these three bands. 18 million.
Okay.
Oh,
18 million.
$18 million.
That's BC dollars, right? That's BC tax dollars, or is that federal?
I can't remember there was municipal or provincial, but it was 18 million. And it was split between the three bands. So that's 6 million each. And what was the reason? Well, when you cut right through it, it was like they promised not to disrupt things. So it's basically a shakedown.
This is, this is our tax dollars.
I know.
Canadians can't put food on the table, and these people are, robbing us blind. And so this resentment is understandably growing, and a resentment towards the Indian community. And that's why I'm calling out for everybody on the reserves. Start reaching out to us, start joining with our side, and collaborating with us, because this isn't going to go well. Some people have said, is there going to be literally civil unrest? Because I'm not going to allow anybody to come and steal my land. I worked really, really hard. I won't go into how hard I worked to keep my house and to pay off every single dime of it. And I'll be darned if somebody is going to come in and steal it because of this illegal DRIPA. And it is against the law. There was nothing lawful about it. And Justin Trudeau flew in as they were consulting and having these private meetings back in, I think it was 2017 or 18. I knew somebody on the committee, and they ended up leaving because of the corruption in the committee, saying, holy smokes, you have no idea what's coming for BC. But Justin Trudeau slithered in, patted people on the back, and then left. And next thing you know, that DRIPA was being signed without anybody's notice, and that they want to redact. How dare they think that the Indians have some sort of special privilege to redact the FOI requests on the monies that are passing hands, not when we're paying for this. Yeah.
This is the problem. Canadians, we want, when you pay money into something to improve something, there have to be results, okay?
Yeah.
Don't just keep
Positive results.
You don't just keep putting good money after bad. When we still have bans not having drinkable water, people are going, how could this still be happening? That's ridiculous. So the question is, where is the money going? And by the way, when Tanya's speaking of Aaron Point is one of the Indigenous men who came on the documentary. Extremely brave man. Mm-hmm. He's big boy, and he's not afraid of anything. Because I said to him, are you afraid? He goes, Dallas, I'm not afraid of anything. But I can't live this way anymore, and I'm not going to keep my mouth shut even a moment longer. And this man deserves a medal because he's standing up for a lot of women on his reserve and other people who feel completely downtrodden, sad, defeated, that their life is futile, that why bother? They go to complain about something and they find that they're fired from their job at the office, or they get some other immediate penalty or punishment for daring to ask a question. And Aaron, these people are really needing us to speak on this. And so I just want to encourage people. This isn't about being mean to Indigenous people. It's like saying, we have to stop this. They're really good people and they need our support and help. And they're living a really crummy situation down there unless you're council or if you're the chief. So
yeah, and they need to recognize our help, right? That we're attacking what's going on. We're not attacking them. We're calling out corruption and we're exposing it. And so the whole purpose of what they want to do is they're using them as pawns, as if we're attacking the pawns rather than attacking those that are behind this extortion campaign. And Aaron is also calling out another development in the UBC area. He's doing FOIs, and they're coming after him, trying to, find him with bylaw infractions. And it's just so crazy. They're so vicious, and we got to just keep saying they got nothing on their side. It's like calling out bank robbers who wanna say, we're not doing anything wrong. It's like, yeah, we're going to keep calling out the bank robbers until they're completely exposed and held to account, because this is criminal.
And let's not forget, we also, the Indigenous population that is represents less than 4% of the province. So the other 96% have to be led with leadership and governance as well. But even of that 4%, how much of that 0.0002% are probably benefiting from this largesse, as well as these other big groups. Now, Tanya, I have another thing I have to go to at 5:30, and I hate to leave because I could talk to you forever. But one day I'd like to come back and tell you about some of the situations we learned about around the province where there are specific cases of complete, just ridiculous situations going on as a result of this effort to decolonize and indigenize BC. And that is a whole show, because I can give you several examples. People would be shocked. Even the renaming of streets in my riding, from Trutch Street to Shmukwiyamawsum Street. I mean, no one can spell it.
Yeah, exactly, Dallas. And I knew that our time, as I mentioned at the beginning, was going to be cut short because you have another obligation, and we could talk for hours and hours because this is a massive agenda, and it's affecting a lot of Canadians, and it's affecting, as you just said, 94% of the population in BC. So we hold a majority, but coming into a next election, we need to be prepared and to be supporting a party that is going to speak on our behalf and that is going to advance, overturning and rescinding these incredibly bad and illegal decisions. And I always talk about the populist movement. Next week, I have Maxime coming on. And the populist movement took over at some point when you stopped voting for party lines, because none of the party lines in our country right now are actually serving Canadians any longer. They're serving globalists, and that's become very evident. So please check out OneBC. And even if you live in other provinces, advise your friends that live in British Columbia to search out and look up OneBC.
Can I just say one thing
Yes,
before?
absolutely.
I want to thank all your beautiful listeners who have said some really nice things. I've been reading the chat as I go along here, but I also want to say we should come back on. I want to talk to your listeners about the concern about splitting the vote, because this comes up a lot. And I want to let people know that I'm very fluid, and there are discussions going on all the time with the Conservative Party. But I'm basically saying, you want our help, you better commit to A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And if you want my people, we get this many candidates. Like, there's going to be some work to be done here, but I know that we don't want to have the NDP back in power. So I'm not oblivious to that concern. So I just wanted to tell your people that. And maybe the next time we could talk about that on another Empower Hour.
Absolutely. You let me know as soon as you're ready, because I have the next Empower Hours. If you want to come week after next, actually, look at your calendar. Let's chat and get you back on, because this is one of the number one conversations in British Columbia. I just want to ask you one last question before you do leave. I know that since you lost one of your comrades, your party was internally attacked. Thank God that you managed to keep the party going. And I'm just praying that another MLA is going to cross the floor and join you. And I would just encourage people, if you're in a riding and you have an MLA that is still supporting the BC Conservatives as they're part of this corruption and what's been managed here, John Rustad has been behind this full on as far as supporting this specific campaign. And so Dallas really, really needs support. And sometimes that means we can go in the community and have really civil and wonderful conversations to engage with them, to say, what will it take? How long will you be part of this rather than take that leap of faith? That will give Dallas her voice back in the legislature as well. And we want to see you tabling more bills, because when Dallas tables these bills and when they're voted down right now with that majority, that means this is on record. So when it comes to the next election, we'll know where all of those candidates stood, whether it was on SOGI or land acknowledgements, whatever it is, Dallas. So add whatever you want to that as we close.
Okay, so yeah, we'll keep working on that, and I still can punch above my weight, even though I'm just one person now, and I do have friends in the Conservative Party. There are some good conservatives in there who are trying their hardest, and there will be, we work things through over there, and I try and work with people and keep my edges soft so that people can still approach. Yeah.
Okay, you're doing an amazing, awesome, incredible job, and we just thank you so much, and I look forward to having you on the show again.
God bless your audience, and thank you, Tanya, for all you do, and thank you, Heather.
Thank you. God bless you.
A beautiful night, everyone.
You too. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dallas. Like I say, this is such an important conversation, and there are so many moving parts to it that it is indeed difficult to cover it all in one show. So I will be texting Dallas until she commits to another Empower Hour coming up shortly. Like I say, we're going to be having the event in Langley on February 20th. It's going to be awesome. One of the main points of what we want to do is really ignite the Lower Mainland and try to source out some incredible people who'd be willing to become chapter leaders, because honestly, 3, 4, 5 people in a chapter are accomplishing incredible things. In fact, that I think it's Clarington, Terry is our Oshawa leader and provincial leader in Ontario. We've had another win in a number of our chapter leaders and members doing delegations to shut down densification. And the city council ended up agreeing. It's expensive. We're not moving forward with densification. And if you don't know what densification is, it's part of the global agenda, part of the 15-minute cities, where you're living in a normal neighborhood, normal cul-de-sac, and somebody decides they all of a sudden want a 4-story, basically apartment next to you, and it's going to block your sun. They'll be 4 stories up, looking in your backyard, and they're applying these densification policies all across the country. And that's because you don't have teams going to the city and town council meetings to, hear that this is on their agenda, and 2, to oppose it and to rally people to come to these. And so with small groups of people, we're actually overturning that. Think what we could do if we had 343 ridings with chapter leaders, good, incredible, strong, faithful chapter leaders. So be sure to join us locally. And if this is tapping into your heart to become a chapter leader, make sure you reach out to us. All right. So next week's guest is going to be Maxime Bernier. I don't know if any of you have paid attention to what happened. I'm not a Conservative member. I haven't been for years, because I exhausted myself for years trying to work together with them as they were passing policies that did not align at all, not at all, with conservative values. Traditional conservative values is what their website guaranteed. You bought a membership thinking that they were going to support conservative values, and next thing they were voting in same-sex marriage. Next thing they were all voting in favor of Bill C-4, the conversion therapy ban, which was the bill that makes it illegal for parents or counselors to counsel their own children if they come home from school saying, I no longer identify as a girl, I'm a boy. If you don't support this delusion, this indoctrination, a parent can go to jail for 5 years, and the ministry will come in and take your kids. This is what the CPC was supporting. And in their convention, they voted against, even though they had a 52% majority, which is pathetic, voting on the gender ideology as to whether or not support a policy against it. 52% of them voted against it, and because of some special rule, another majority won. This is not democracy, and they voted down supporting the actions against gender ideology and the Liberals as well. They refused once again, no matter how much people lobby them. I don't even know why conservative-minded Canadians are still supporting the CPC, and I hope these groups will finally give up on it. Anyways, they were supporting, they wouldn't support any legislation against abortion. So our children are under the bus, parental rights were under the bus, and they went for the easy stuff, like on, financial matters that everybody can agree with, because they found all these other issues too divisive. What a weak-kneed party. And they're just liberal light. Anyways, I know teams of people that went there, and I hate to say it, but they are leading people astray by still trying to reform the Conservative Party. And the reason I'm going on a bit about this a bit is because I think it's really, really important. For years, we've been supporting Maxime Bernier, because if you look at his policies, it's everything and anything we can imagine. If there isn't, I've worked together with the PPC in forming their policy. They've opened that door to me, and I felt very honored to be able to help have an influence there. And so Maxime, we look at the populist vote. We've done special shows on this in the past, a couple of them actually, where how do you think Argentina ended up voting in a populist leader? And how do you think the Netherlands finally voted in Geert Wilders with a majority? It is because the citizens finally realized they weren't going to continue to get anywhere voting whatever parties had been running the country for a couple of decades and were driving them into communism. And so that's the PPC. I also give a shout out always to the Christian Heritage Party. If they were going to run a candidate and the PPC weren't, and they were people of faith, I would say get behind them as well. So we're going to have a good conversation about this, but there were many, many people that had attended the convention, and they were so disheartened. And people who had been receiving updates on social media were so angry and fed up that they said, we're cutting up our membership. We're sending it into the Conservative Party. But unfortunately, Conservatives have been at this point before. I was actually serious about it about 6 or 7 years ago, and I actually cut my card up and sent it to them in the mail. And I would encourage everybody, don't just talk about it, do it. Send the Conservative Party a clear message, and don't be forgiving. Don't forgive them. And then if they, back it up a little bit, don't turn it around right now. They've had every opportunity for years of people appealing to them on these critically serious issues, especially for our children. Our children are being mutilated. They're being indoctrinated. They're being physically and mentally and emotionally harmed. And the Conservative Party should have been on the front line of this battle, and they're not. And so if you think it's going to get better because a few people send their Conservative membership card in, I don't know. We've been through this. So at some point, you've got to make a decision. And maybe that decision will be next week when you hear Maxime come on the show and we talk about their platform and talk about what's going on in other places in the world that finally got countries out from under this mess. And what a beautiful thing it is to celebrate when you see them out on the streets and having brought in a new, beautiful, wonderful leader of faith. And that's key to it, that they really believed in God and we're bringing God back into government. So join us next week. Plan on it, mark it on your calendar. All right, the verses for tonight I think are very appropriate. A lot of it's from Proverbs. I could have done like 10 verses from Proverbs on foolishness, but it goes Proverbs 18:13. Spouting off before listening to the facts is both shameful and foolish. And then the next verse is also from Proverbs 18, verse 15. Intelligent people are always ready to learn. Their ears are open for knowledge. And just look at what happened in that video to our kids on the grounds. And so finally, the third verse is Proverbs 18:2. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. And so with that, it is just so important to reach out to our kids. I'm embarrassed for them in seeing how they're behaving. The matter of disrespect, I don't know where the parents are, but it can happen to any good parent. And that is purely because of the indoctrination. One, on social media, never, ever, ever give a cell phone to a child. Don't let them access social media. If they happen to have a Facebook account at home, I wouldn't even let them on Facebook. I didn't have any of that in my house. My kids, they were maybe in their late teens. And I mean, somebody could have called me in for child abuse, but I don't care. I mean, this is a 911 call, my friends. If you are really serious about protecting your kids, go old school with them. If you need a flip phone, if your child needs a phone, give them a flip phone. Really, really pressure the school saying, I don't think cell phones should be in the classrooms. Keep them in the locker. My daughter was exposed to pornography because boys in one of her classes had opened the phone up, and she came home and she was crying. I was so upset about it because our child's innocence can be gone in a moment, in seconds. And this is how it's happening. Better yet, keep your kids home and homeschool them. But if you can't do that, then you need to be actively involved in overseeing what's going on in your classrooms. And that's okay. You're the parent. You have that power and you have that right. All right, so that's it for tonight. I'm going to ask you again to give us a thumbs up, help our algorithms by even making a comment, sign up for our Rumble. We are on YouTube now. Because of the changes down in the United States, they're supposed to be not censoring us, but I look at other organizations with hundreds of thousands of views, and they really, really are still blocking us. So help us even just by privately sharing Action for Canada's information. All right, we can counter their shadiness in the background. Let's do this together. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. God bless you, and God bless Canada.
Heart if you are here today pursuing freedom and righteousness.